On today's funeral service for renowned photographer and activist Peter Magubane, let's cross to SABC News senior reporter Griselda Lewis. Griselda, I know that this is what you'll be covering. You'll be attending the funeral service at the Bryanston Methodist Church north of Johannesburg, where the president is also expected to deliver the eulogy. Perhaps give us an understanding and sort of a bird's eye view of what's happening at the moment.
Well, that's right, Leanne. As you correctly pointed out, President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver that eulogy of a world-renowned photographer, Dr Peter Magubane, who's been hailed as a freedom fighter in his own right, having used his lens to capture and expose the atrocities of apartheid South Africa. So earlier this week, you would have heard at the memorial service, tribute was paid to him for using that lens as a powerful weapon to fight for justice. His work, we understand, went beyond the surface and delved into raw emotions of those facing injustice at the time. His commitment to truth-telling basically put him at a crossheads with the apartheid regime, but he refused to remain silent. You'd recall multiple times he'd been arrested, he'd been detained in solitary confinement for hundreds of hours, in some instances hundreds of days, in fact. Let's take a listen, Leanne, to when Dr Magubane spoke about the time he was shot 17 times with rubber bullets while attending the funeral of an activist. Let's take a listen to that.
Though at one point in Tembisa, they shot me 17 times with buckshots. But I survived that. The school children that were there quickly took me to the hospital where I spent 20 days. That was the toughest time I've ever been through.
With just a bit of history pertaining to that, you recall between 1956 and 1961, Magubane had taken photographs of, amongst others, the historic Women's March to the Union buildings in Pretoria, recall, where he also, you'd recall, part of what he also took was the treason trial, an historic moment in South Africa which saw over 100 national leaders tried for high treason. You'd recall, after the adoption of the Freedom Charter at the Congress of the People in Kliptown, that was in 1956. He was also one of the photographers, who documented the immediate aftermath of the Sharpeville massacre in 1960. So Magubane's images, of Sharpeville were published in the Times magazine, you'd recall, and played a key role in bringing the brutality of the apartheid state to global notice. Many saying that it's those images that had basically, fostered that solidarity from the international community and gave them an idea of what was taking place in South Africa. So we're expecting proceedings to get underway at 9 o'clock this morning, while the service will be held here at the Bryanston Methodist Church here in Johannesburg. His final resting place will be at the Four Ways Memorial Park. So his remains will be taken there, and that will be his final resting place. But mourners have already started arriving here for the start of the proceedings themselves. But much tribute, Leanne, has been paid to him for the role that he played in the attainment of democracy, such that, of course, a government has decided to bestow him or accord him with a special provincial official funeral, of course, that highlighting the role that he played towards the attainment of democracy. Of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering that eulogy. We'll also expect to hear from some of his colleagues in the field who, in our earlier crossing, you saw there, Simpiwe Mhlambi, who was one of the acclaimed photographers here in South Africa, indicating that Dr. Peter Magubane was one of those individuals who really, tried to assist and even support his colleagues, those that came after him. He's also been described as a guerrilla with a camera. That was the words that were used by veteran journalist as well as editor Matata Tsedu. So we're expecting much of that tribute to be centered around that as well again today as he is being laid to rest.
All right, Griselda Lewis on that story. So that's something we certainly will be taking taking a look at that funeral that'll be taking place, and she'll be covering that story. Griselda Lewis, thanks very much for that. Now, Eskom's